Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to tonight's Town of Goshen, New York Town Board Combination Work Session and Regular Meeting on this November 8th, 2012, 7:30 p.m. And we have a call to order, and they're off. Amendment to the agenda. Privilege of the floor. Agenda items only. Old business. Public hearing 2013 Town of Goshen budget. Discuss and approve resolution regarding a retiree insurance contract proposal with the Hartford Company and Benistar Administrative Services Incorporated, effective January 1st, 2013. Review discussion of the new State Court of Appeals regarding the property maintenance tax levy against Section 25, Block 3, Lot 13. And we're off to finance. Authorize the supervisor to pay accounts payable check run 4/11/2012 amounted to $212,608.01. And we have the privilege of the floor and determined executive session.
Okay, are there any amendments to the agenda?
It's title, but
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay. I just would ask that you add an item 3 or 4 on the session with regard to suspension litigation stemming out of the police department.
Okay.
And
PBA?
Yeah. No, not so much PBA. No. Personal issue. Personal, individual issue. That's okay.
Okay. Add that to the agenda?
Yeah.
Executive session.
Yes. An executive session.
Right, item 3. Okay. Under old business, the first item we have is public hearing regarding the 2013 Town of Goshen budget. Would someone like to make a motion? We open the public hearing. Is there a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Let me talk a little bit about the process. My understanding by New York law that the supervisor is responsible for putting together the budget for the municipality. And the supervisor doesn't work alone. He works with many, many people, to include the board, department heads, commissioner of finance, etc. Then tonight, I'll present the budget to the board, and then it becomes ours. We can modify it, we can reject it, or we can accept it. And then it becomes the budget for the town. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about who's been doing it, because everybody's got a part. The first one I'd like to recognize is the budget officer, Bill Standish. Bill Standish is a college-graduated accountant, has a master's degree in psychology, which we probably use as much as we do the accounting degree. He works with Barbara Sokolowski, who is my assistant. She looks after all of the water and sewer bills. She's the resident expert on that, keeps tabs on that. And the third person in the finance department is Jennifer Hart. She pays all the bills, and she pays all of us with the payroll system. And basically she's doing part-time what it used to be 1.5 people did. Now the board, each of us have a responsibility in regard to the budget. Mr. Cantorino is Commissioner of Finance, and I lean on him every day that he's here in regard to particular things like revenues and this and that, and we go through this iteration after iteration after iteration. And so what you see tonight has got his fingerprints all over it. George, about 3 years ago, I asked if he would consider being the commissioner of insurance. Insurance is becoming a very, very costly item. you'll see tonight that the medical insurance, for example, with night shift is going up 11.9%. And when you have a $20,000 family policy, and it goes up basically 12%, you're talking $2,400 just on that one policy, for one person. Insurance is very costly. Workman's compensation, medical insurance, hospitalization, liability insurance, etc. And so George is doing a great job, a grand job, as last year, the year before, working with me and others, Phil, negotiating the best for us that we can, and he made great savings for us. Ken works with me on the water and sewer. And if we go back 5, 6, 7 years ago, water and sewer was a major component of our costs for the people in our community. Still is, but to a much lesser degree. And Ken worked with me in particular, and he and Lou, on being the first negotiating team with the village when we were trying to work through the arbitration. So he has major impact, not so much on this budget, but the budget that we talk about in the spring, in April, which is water and sewer. Oh, and by the way, George is involved, he's our liaison to Joint Rec, which spends money as well. Lou has 2 parts. He has the senior center, which spends money. It's been on budget every year since I've been here. They do a great job. But Lou works with Highway. He's our Commissioner of Highway. And stop and thinking about that, the price of asphalt today is probably like 3 or 4 times as much as it was back when we started back in 2006 working together. And so he's been instrumental in not only working on the road with Roderick and his predecessor, Mr. Andrushak, but also on equipment purchases and all those kind of things. So everybody on this board has had some input, in bringing this budget that we're going to talk about tonight to where it is. Okay? So with that, I'm going to talk about the budget. As I go through this, some of these things is going to be a repeat, because what we do, we have a 5-year financial plan and a 5-year strategic plan. And so this is just building on what we've already done. It's an accumulative effect. If you save dollars this year, you're going to save them again next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. But this year, we have a new goal, and I put it in bold type at the top, which is to reestablish the checking account fund balances. That's the money we have in the bank. And as you see, and this has got to be a top priority, because when we did the audit of the year-end fund balances for last year, December 31st, 2011, we found that we were minus $18,000 in Fund A. Down from $1 million back in 2005. And that's the mortgage tax. Okay, so we've got to reestablish those fund balances. Economic stability, continue to weather the economic storm. 2013 is going to be the 5th year, year 5 of this. Remember, it was December of 2008 when all hell broke loose. Housing market, et cetera, and so 9, 10, 11, 12, and this will be 13, that's the 5th year. Protect jobs, we've always thought that, we need people sign on for full-time jobs with us. They want careers, they don't want just a job. Protect the level of services. And lastly, achieve the 2% New York State tax levy cap, which is in fact law. The budget planning strategies that we pursue is we utilize a 5-year strategic plan. And I'm going to go through that in the next page in a moment. We try to involve all department heads and union leaders early in the process as possible. We solicit and share ideas with other municipalities. Mr. Cantorino and I have had meetings with New Windsor and Chester and Warwick, et cetera, through the years. Anytime I see any of my peer group, I ask them what's going on and what are you doing differently or so forth. And then we seek New York State expertise and assistance in regard to the tax levy. And Mr. Stanch is communicating with the people in Albany to make sure we do it correctly. Now, the 5-year strategic plan was put together back in 2006 by this board. And we put our hands in the bag. And we said we're going to buy used equipment when appropriate. Because you can buy used equipment, good used equipment, 10 cents on a dollar. For example, this year we bought a new chip, or a used chipper from a municipality here in Orange County. Can't believe they sold it, but we bought it in a bidding situation. And a great deal, because our chipper, the one we have, is taking a lot of maintenance dollars. So now we got a new used chipper in great shape, and we're keeping the old chipper as a backup.
Twice as big, too.
Twice as big, yeah. We pay cash, we don't borrow, and we reduce debt. And you'll see a chart that I'm very proud of, that this board has agreed to do these things. But we pay as we go or we don't go. The only money we've borrowed has been, now this is for operations, the only money we've borrowed since January 1st of 2006 is for PDR. And you have to when you buy a farm. You don't have that kind of Cat 6. It is significant. And as you lose people through attrition, they quit, they retire, they move away, or whatever it is, okay? If you're going to do the same work with fewer people, they've got to have the functioning capability of doing that. And let me use the example of Jennifer Hart. We used to use ADP to run our process our payroll. $50,000 a year, or whatever it was. We hired someone in to do that, Jennifer Hart. Then we had someone in accounts payable paying our bills. And that person left. And Jennifer said, well, I can do that. So now she's doing the payroll and she's doing the paying the bills. Then she goes back to graduate school and she said, I want to become a part-timer, which saves us $20,000. But she said, I can still do what I was doing full-time if I do it properly. So now she's paying the bills, and she's paying us, and she's working part-time. That's called functioning capability. She's with us. She's not against us, you know? And people, we have them in highway, we have them everywhere. Last year, Bob LaCara left, retired. Didn't get replaced. Doing just fine. And I can go through every department where people have left and we're still getting the job done with fewer people because they're functioning capability. We focus on continuous cost reduction. We don't wait until budget time. We cost reduce all year long. For example, Jennifer went part-time, pardon me, she went part-time months ago. Okay. So that's okay. Yeah, they are. I love talking about money. I'm just So anyway, it's continuous and it's cumulative, and you'll see that in some of the charts tonight. We also, I've got one of those, but thank you, George. The other thing is we focus on continuous cost reduction. On selling the tax surcharges. We had tax surcharges that went back to 1998 when this board took over in 2006. The biggest being the L3 landfill. And we'll talk about that tonight too. It is over. It is over. And we reduced the tertiaries from dozens and dozens down to just a handful, and now it's just the new ones that we've got. The other thing is we have the Joint Economic Development Initiative, and that was the idea of Phil Dropkin. He volunteered for this. We're working it out with the village. And I would like to say I continue to keep on the primary front burner bringing a food store to Goshen. And I see a little glimmer of hope on it. The next page is the assessable base. And you can see the change from 2012 to 2013. There's very little change. Not enough to write home about, but we're holding our own. Revenues for 2013. I'm going to talk about mortgage tax in a moment on another page by itself, as with sales tax. Court fines, $265. That's about what it's been. Franchise is up a little bit, reflects some contract changes we made. The grants are in the PD. It's the Buckle Up program and drunken driving program. And I think those funds may ultimately dry up, depending on what's going on in the criminal department in Albany. And then the property tax. So that's the main sources, not all, but the main sources of revenue for the town. The thing that has been the biggest problem for us to manage is the cumulative effect of the loss of mortgage tax. Back in 2006, we got $701,000 in mortgage tax. This year it's down to $256. We thought it was going to be $225, so that's why we budgeted $225. But we got the check last week and it came in at $256. But if you take all those years, all the money we've lost, thank you, Ken. If you take all the money we've lost between 2006 and 2013, we have lost $2,541,000. And when you're talking about a budget of $7 million plus $7.2 million, $2.5 million is a lot of money. And I'm going to show you how we've offset that. Sales tax for 2012 came in at $1.17 million. Phil and I put down $1 million for 2013. I still think we may come in only at $1 million. If you just look at what Sandy has done to us, you know, in terms of the eastern coast, from New Jersey, Staten Island, Long Island, Westchester County, Rockland County, those are the people who spend the money down in Woodbury Common. Now, will they be coming up here in the next 6 months to a year spending as much money? Somehow I don't think so. But these are the kind of, it's better to be conservative on revenues than overstate them. If you overstate your revenues and you understate your expenses, you go out of business. Now, abnormal costs to be managed in 2013. The major increases were the New York State pension costs. For police, it went up 15%. For our 12 officers, that's $32,000. For non-police, which is everybody else, it's gone up $35,000. Am I angry about this? I am. I'm very disappointed because we keep hearing that the New York State pension fund is well funded, is well managed, and this and that. This is an improvement. Last year, the police went up 70%, and the non-police went up 40%. Couldn't believe it. But that's an abnormal. There's $67,000 this year that we have to offset. Now, hospitalization with night shift. They told George it's going up 11.9%. Another way of saying that is 12%. You know, round it up. And so we're looking for other carriers, and you'll see tonight we're going to go with another carrier starting on this. But for the individual and families, I mean, when you're paying $20,000 for a family policy and it goes up 12%, that's $2,400 more, $200 a month more, just on an insurance policy for one employee. Labor contracts, both the CSCA and the PBA are being negotiated. Phil and I are going to start in the morning, 9 o'clock, have our first meeting. fuel and asphalt and stone, I mean, you see it at the gas pumps, but when you buy asphalt, which comes out of an oil well, it's ghastly expensive. And it's not going down. And we have 73 miles of road, and you start putting road in, you can spend a lot of money very quickly. Now, the next chart is a chart that, I just love this chart, because this one is how we offset the loss of mortgage tax. When this board got together, we were all new together in 2006, okay, we owed $4.588 million. Okay. Operations PDR for a total of $4,588,922. And that was including bands and, what's the other one?
The serial bond.
A serial bond, thank you. Okay. Now, at the end of this coming year, we're going to have we've been paying off debt because we have, number one, we haven't been borrowing money, and we've been paying off the existing debt during these last 5 years. We're going to be down to $3,050,000. But if you look at and we've been paying off the high interest debt. Got it? High interest debt. So our debt payment is going on an annual basis from $677,492 a year that we have to extract from the taxpayer to give to the banks. Currently, this coming year is going to be $216,250. Or we're going to save in 2013, and this is cumulative every year, this is an improvement over last year, $461,242 less than we did back in 2006, or that should be a minus 68%. That is significant. And if you recall, we've lost $2.5 million in mortgage tax, but we're gaining it back here. Just one of the major cost reductions. And I dare say, we're probably the only municipality in the state of New York who has paid off debt during this 5-year trauma. Because it's so easy. If you need something, just go borrow the money and lease it or whatever you're going to do. So cost reductions. We are in the process of consolidating the assessing services of Goshen with Orange County. So the assessing group here is going to be changing January 1st. It's going to save us $31,000 or 18%. As I talked about, the second item is full-time to part-time, one financial clerk, that's Jennifer Hart. We save her benefits $20,000 plus, and so 50% of her costs. The debt payment improvement from last year to from 2012 to 2013 is going to be $136,500 less. The health insurance potential savings when we're going to be going to a new carrier is at minus $170,000 if we can get the unions to agree with it, retirees and everybody else. We can save $170,000, 20% reduction versus a 12% increase for insurance of the same value, same coverage. And then I put sundry, $18,000. We're nickel-diming things all year long. Okay. So this year we've got $375,500 of cost savings. Now this next chart talks about the budget comparison. And you see I've got 2008 and 2013 blocked in. I did that for a reason. In 2013, we are going to spend less money than we did in 2008. So our budget for 2013 is going to be $16,152. We're going to spend less money than we did 6 years ago. And if you look at those abnormal costs I'm talking about, 70% increase in police pension costs, 40% for everybody else, then this year it's 15 and 17, and all the other things that have been going on. Fuel costs, asphalt costs, and this board, through our continuous cost reduction, with the main one being debt payment reduction, we're going to spend less money in 2013 than we did back in 2008. Well, how does this manifest itself? This board has been committed to the 2% tax cap, and we've come in at 1.974%. Now, what does this mean for the people? The tax levy increase for a home of a $300,000 fair market value. So if a person's got a home that they could sell for $300,000, if they're in the village, their tax increase in the town of Goshen is going to go up $17 next year. If you live in the town, it's twice that, it's $34. Now I want to share a story with you. On Tuesday, election day, to show you the relativity of this, my wife said, Doug, I'm going to get you up tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. We're going to be first in line to vote at 6 o'clock. I said, the hell you say? No, we're going to do it, and I will buy you breakfast. Okay. So, sure enough, she got me up. We went and voted. We went to the Goshen Diner and had breakfast. It was $16.90. She had an omelet and a cup of java. I had one scrambled egg and dry rye toast and a cup of java. And it's $16.90. That's equivalent to what someone's going to pay next year in the village for a $300,000 increase in tax. And that's before the tip. I'm telling you, this is pretty, I think, phenomenal. But it is because I want to share it again. The cumulative effect of what we've been trying, this board, everybody's had their hand on this bag, like buying a 1994, last year, 1994 and 1995 International Harvester dump trucks, 40,000 miles each. We had $25,000 in each truck when it was all rebuilt, versus $185,000 for new ones. You keep doing these things, chippers, this, that, tractors, lawnmowers, about 3 years ago, they bought some snowplow. New out of the box, so to speak. Never been used. 10 cents on a dollar. And everybody in the highway participates. They come to us and say, here's the deal. What we do is we put on their table magazines of used equipment. They'll let them shop for it. They know what we need.
We go on the internet.
And they go on the internet. So anyway, I put all this together because I really am proud of what the employees everywhere are doing, to include this board. I don't think you can come up with much of a better study or story than this. So with that, are there any comments from the public relative to this public hearing?
I have a quick question for you.
Sure, go for it.
Taking a look at the assessed base. Oh, yeah, never mind. This is probably not this in the minutes.
That's your job?
I got Bupkus here.
I'm trying to smooth that.
Here, this is on.
Well, he's a lawyer. I mean, you can't expect me to anything here.
I noticed in the assessed base,
Right,
it declined slightly for the village and it was up slightly for the town.
right.
I'm curious, with it remaining flat, if that's because with the decline in market value, you've had new properties coming in.
But no, it's scars in small claims, assessments, and certs. Brings it down. Where if people claim it, they normally get something, and it brings it down. The other thing is, there have been some properties to leave the area. I mean, or, it'll reflect next year, but if a business goes out and the doors are closed, it's not worth as much.
Well, that's my question. How has the revenue stayed even if you've got a declining market and you don't have additional value in property coming in from a developer? What is causing this to remain flat rather than going into the toilet?
We've been upgrading the assessments to
We
a
have to
holistic level. We have gained, we have looked, because of the reval that we were doing, we have been able to accumulate a hell of a lot of data, a lot more data. So there have been a lot of adjustments. There have been some building permits, there has been some, so the offsetting, this is what it came out to be.
Right.
This comes from our assessment. We don't
Let me give you-
generate this number.
My expectation would be,
Absolutely.
with this market and a decline in market values, that your revenue from taxes would be going into the toilet
Right.
and be a real problem in terms of balancing your budget, because your costs are only going to go up.
Well, one of the things,
Right.
Joel, is in 2011, we had 11 building permits.
Right.
2012, we were projecting 30. So there is an increase.
Yeah.
That's why the
Yeah.
.110, I mean, it's gone up. But it's in all purposes, it's just flat. It's a wash.
Right, I have no problem with that. My question is really as to why it's flat rather than declining. What is it that's causing it,
Well, I think
causing the
we-
increase to keep it flat rather than deflating?
Biggest hits in the assessable base already, and I think it's bottomed out.
steady
Yeah, I think it's bottomed out.
We're in the fifth, we'll be going into the
Yeah.
5th year of this.
Yeah.
Now, there's going to be some major changes next year. I mean, that is gas station out there is being built out, or whatever it's called. That's going to increase on the village.
We have some
The-
great
the-
variables coming in.
We have some big ones in
Right,
town.
well, that goes to what
Absolutely.
what I'm asking is whether or
Yeah.
not you've had the development of new properties to offset the decline in assessed
We
values.
have.
Right, we have.
Yeah.
We have.
Then related to that, I noticed that your state aid per capita has actually gone down. Is that because the rate has gone down, or we have...
We don't know the total story on why it went down, but there are state adjustments on any of the funds that the state gives to us, and they adjust their percentage, their ratables, from their own financial standpoint, and they issue them back to us. It's not all just because of that one item.
So the income from the state aid per capita, I assume it depends upon census data. That has not been a factor? We're not losing population?
Well, no, it may have been a factor, but in addition to which, New York realized that they were not in the business of handing out as much state aid. So they did their own financial adjustment in addition to whether our population goes up or down. So you got a couple of
You
things.
can't pay out money you don't have.
Right.
Correct, so it's as
Right.
much a problem offset from ours as well as any population we may have lost.
Does anybody know, has there been a decline in
I
population?
don't think there's been a decline. In the village, I know there's been a decline.
Because I know the school population is staying constant.
Right.
I just don't remember.
I really couldn't say.
We can find that out, because we did, I mean, Priscilla was our daddy rabbit on this, coordinating all this for us, and
I don't,
we've got the information.
I know it went down in the village, but I think it held steady, but it's, remember, but tomorrow we'll know, and we'll take a look.
The other thing that I was looking at, and I had, it's very difficult to do this on the spot, just going through it. I was looking at the anticipated revenue from fines and court fees against the cost of the police department, which brings me back to one of my favorite things I grind on here about getting the county to take over traffic policing. I question, just looking at these numbers, whether it pays.
Oh, you're only seeing part of the numbers. The vast majority of the fines that we collect here go to the state of New York.
I understand.
You don't see them. Well, do all the police departments pay for themselves? I don't know, but there's a much bigger number.
Oh, I'm sure there is, and I'm sure that the bottom line on the police budget probably has additional costs from other lines added to it.
Sure.
Yes? So I understand those numbers can't be taken as the end of the story. But I have to raise the question again. is, you know, the police department is costing the town money that's not coming back, you're not paying for it with traffic enforcement.
Right.
Wouldn't it be better to work with the village and offload traffic enforcement to the county and diminish the costs that you're covering with running the police department?
You're saying two things, work with the village and offload us and the village.
The village and the town together.
For the village.
But
we can.
But you know that I've brought this up before, about working with the village to get the county to take over traffic enforcement in lieu of taxes. Because they pay nothing, and 50% of our property is off the books.
The county told, you're absolutely right, it's a great idea, we are definitely open to it, we would love to do it, all of those things. However, the county, first of all, tells us they don't have a charter for traffic enforcement. Their charter doesn't allow for traffic enforcement. I know, oh my God, absolutely, I couldn't disagree, it's not there yet.
You know what I
This is a
think?
very involved process, Joe. I mean, Doug and I have gone to Albany, we've gone to, I mean, everybody you could possibly talk to do something about this, and we are.
I just don't want to miss another opportunity
Sure.
to
We are absolutely,
beat on that drum.
we could not disagree with you, and we appreciate it. Absolutely appreciate it. We want to keep beating that drum, but something has to give. You're absolutely right.
Hey, Joel, what do you have to say about the budget?
Say something nice.
What do I have to say?
Yeah.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah.
I don't worry about the budget in the town because you guys are thorough, and from being here at all the meetings, I don't have to worry about your budget. I know that you watch every nickel and dime. I know that you don't borrow, and I know that you're on top of costs. So I don't worry about the town's dealing with the budget.
Thank you.
I worry about the fire department, I worry about the village, but I don't worry about the town.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah. The one thing that you mentioned, Doug, I mean, jumps off the page and even amazes me, is the fact that we are carrying we have the same budget, even a little less, than we had 6 years ago or 5 years ago. With all the increases, we've been able to do that. In addition to that, this town is only carrying $3 million in debt. And that debt was primarily because of the PDR, the county program, and the buying the open space and so on. Otherwise, that's virtually no debt for a municipality. I mean, really, and I mean, if you look at
More importantly, you have, what's the word I'm looking for? Restrained yourselves from acquiring further debt.
and we could, tomorrow, we could do that, but Doug went over the whole thing. I mean, I'm really proud of
I
this board.
think that's
myself.
one of the most significant things about this board is your unwillingness to take on more debt.
Yep.
Well, I have a comment.
Sure, go ahead.
Basically, it's the same
Yeah.
thing that Phil said, because we talked about this afternoon. But I would love to see if there's a household in the town or village that operates with the same budget for their house in 2008 versus today, with all the increases of gasoline, heat, cell phones, everything you can think of. And as I told Doug, and I'm going to tell the whole board, I'm very proud of that.
We're proud of it.
When I saw these numbers and how we tracked it, it just...
We're not getting help from anybody else. We're doing it
No,
right
we don't.
in-house. No one's giving us money. We're just taking care of our own house here. And I'm super proud of the board, and Doug has done an absolutely outstanding job.
All of you, Bill, everybody else.
Well, it's everybody's success.
everyone.
Everybody's success.
Everybody brings something to the party.
Well, I've always said, I don't think anybody can out-cheat this board. But,
Don't use that.
All of that being said,
Anyway,
all of that being said, I think you're kind of at the end of the road
No, we're done.
in terms of the low-hanging fruit. I think it's going to become much more difficult as we go forward over the next several years because we are going to be running into inflation, and I think it's going to be a while before the economy turns.
Yeah, but we just did not pick low-hanging fruit, Joe.
Well, you know, Bill and I have already talked about next year, what debt we're paying off, and the year after that, et cetera. So that number's going to continue to come down.
Yep.
And there are other things. You just George's got, it's sitting on a,
2013 is the last payment to this building.
14.
That's significant, right? That's a significant.
See, we got things in the back.
75,000.
Yeah, 75,000
we-
after
we-
2014, reduction again.
and we're looking at maybe this coming year, if we can squeeze the money out, however we want to do this, paying off $300,000 of debt, rather than renew taking a band and going into a serial bond. So there are things we can do, and we have to do. Okay? But we've just got to continue working on it. This is
Along those lines, MacDonald had talked about paving methods that involved a reuse of the materials, and traveling machines that grind it up and reuse it. How is that working out?
works wonderful. We've done it this year. Go to Gate School Road.
And it looks like it's going to be of sufficiently serviceable
It's better.
duration?
It's better, it's not cheaper, you get, the lifespan of the road is gonna be a lot longer. So in the long run, it'll be cheaper, but as far as paying for it every year, it isn't cheaper. It's just that.
What they do is they grind it, and they put cement, Portland cement in it, and then on top of that, they put on a very, very high-quality asphalt aggregate material, probably ½ inch to an inch. Put it down, it waterproofs it, it's just smooth. They're doing this in the highways in the 17 out here, so smooth, you know.
If you notice, when they were doing 17, which I was traveling real early in the morning, it is only this thick.
Yeah.
Now, right on that road today, it is like beautiful, glass, but it's strong, stronger than putting 3 inches.
Every mile, every night.
Yeah, I know, I was there every morning when they were doing it.
And you're right, it's only like a skim coat almost.
Yeah, but
And it's so
take it up,
so.
and they take that up, grind it, and put it down.
Well, when Mr. Noel got here, he ran a test. He did 2 or 3 different things to find out which one he liked the best. It looks like we're going to get the greatest durability, and we're going more toward we eliminated some and are going with the one that we just mentioned.
But I just want to make a statement there with that. Every road doesn't qualify for that.
Exactly.
All right? It's because
High-use roads are the ones.
there are roads that, because of so much prep and so much you have to do, it would probably cost you twice the amount of money after you get some of these roads prepped and leveled and everything else. So, but we have different options for different reasons. So that's what I'm trying to say. We have more options now than we had before, and they're good options.
Any other comments?
I would just like to jump in here real quick. I'll just pull rank. I've been here since 1998. And the format of how we develop the budget today, and back in 1998, like 2 different worlds. Used to be a supervisor would present a budget with no input from anyone. Accept it or not accept it. And we went to another supervisor who was no discussion with any department heads. The budget was presented, take it or leave it. Now, since Mr. Bloomfield and the rest of my board members have joined us, that people have to be proud of. The format as he discusses, I think even with the cleaning lady, how we can save money. So, just that little history of it, and Doug and the rest of what I'm proud of, this budget. And we used to give tax rate of 9%, 10%, in 1 year 14%. Did you see it? In 16 short years, it's come 2,000 paying down this debt that we accumulated probably by not formulating the budget in the past. Thank you, Doug, and the rest of the board.
Good, thank you very much, Ken.
I think we want to make a contribution.
Yeah, I'm getting ready
He
to.
got his money out.
Hey.
All right, Joe.
Man, I saw a bunch of balls flying.
I can guarantee you they're all singles.
Would someone like to get a little abused? Would someone like to make a motion that we close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Would someone like to make a motion that we adopt the 2013 Town of Goshen budget as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I guess on this one, we need, can we do that, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cantorino?
Aye.
Councilman Ryan?
Aye.
Councilman Newbold?
Aye.
Councilman Capella?
Aye.
Supervisor Bloomfield?
Aye, motion carries.
Great.
Thank you very much. Bill, thank you for hanging around.
Great job, Bill.
George, I did, yeah.
Okay, the next item is to discuss and approve a resolution regarding retiree insurance contract proposal with the Hartford Company and the Benestar Administrative Services, Inc., effective January 1st, 2013. This is something that George has been working on. Dennis, you want to go through the resolution? Is yours on?
Yeah, it was on, but it's not working for some reason.
Your battery dead?
It's possible.
No, not it, yours.
I know. Phone is possible. As the board has before it, a resolution regards the first amendment, if you want to call it that, to our insurance program and payment thereof. This has to do with the Medicare qualified retired people within the town of Goshen. And it basically provides that in place of night shift, the New York State Health Insurance Program, the board, after reviewing and studying existing insurance coverage plans which are available, has determined that it's in the best benefit of not only the retirees but the town to replace the existing night shift program with the programs that Doug had alluded to. Now, the therefore resolution gives the supervisor the discretion to pursue those and enter into a contract effective January 1, 2013 as a replacement. Again, it's generic. I just point out to the board.
Would someone like to make a motion regarding this resolution?
So moved.
Second. George, can you explain, allow the background on this for us?
Yeah.
So, as Dennis just told us, this is actually going to affect 13 people who are retirees. They all have Medicare as their primary, and then this is the secondary insurance. Right now, the secondary insurance for these 13 people is the night shift program. The program that we are going to go into is with Hartford. Essentially, I realize these people are salespeople, but I'm convinced, and I think everybody else that was here and heard people come, that they're basically getting better coverage. And the cost, the decrease in premium is approximately $11,000. So it'll be $11,000 savings each year just for these 13 people. And then, of course, we're going to be branching on to the other people. But this was the first one. So what we're doing tonight is, Dennis, you got all of the contracts and stuff like that. And
Sure.
We reviewed them. They all seem to be in order.
If they do.
And so Doug will be signing those things. After that, then we're going to be sending letters to these 13 people. We'll invite them in. They'll fill out their applications, ask any questions that they have or anything like that, and then the program will start January 1.
Okay, any other comments from the board? Okay, Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Cantorino?
Aye.
Councilman Lyons?
Aye.
Councilman Newbold?
Aye.
Councilman Capella?
Aye.
Supervisor Blufield?
Aye. Motion carries. Resolution passes. Thank you, George.
Yeah, Doug, it would be my intention to meet with you probably tomorrow or with your convenience on those contracts. And the originals, I assume the supervisor has, George.
Yes, and there's one of the forms that has to be filled out. I went actually over it. There's a lot of check boxes you have to check and
Okay.
stuff like that. So I have all the information on that.
Not a problem.
And
I have anything?
if you do have copies of it.
Oh, okay.
At one time you did, but they were emailed to Bob. So
Oh.
if you don't have them, Barbara can just run you out another copy.
We'll get someone to do it. She's not here tomorrow.
Oh,
Okay. Very good. Okay, we'll do it. Okay, the next one is Dennis, could you help us out and bring us up to date on the New York State Court of Appeals regarding the decision from Albury?
What is in your package, if you will, is a copy of the State of New York Court of Appeals decision in regards to the matter of Albury Landfill, Inc. as appellant versus the town of Goshen as respondents. And simply put, the decision which is reflected there indicates that their request for leave to appeal to the Court of Appeals was denied, and that in its entirety, and that the court, in addition, awarded the town $100 of costs and necessary reproduction disbursements. insignificant in the scheme of things, but the reproduction disbursements were still calculated. They could be substantial based upon the brief and the record we had to submit to the Court of Appeals. So the effect of that is that the case is now ended. There's no further basis for appeal or any court to go to. And the decision of the second department, appellate division, stands, which is the decision the board knows, and I think the public knows, which would reverse the original trial court decision issued by Judge Ritter.
I'd like to clarify for some people in the public who don't quite understand. And I'm not trying to be a wise guy or anything else when we're talking to people about this. But we said back months ago when this board elected to appeal this decision of Judge Ritter, okay, the appeal was this. The plaintiff had an appraiser who had a whole methodology different than our appraiser. And the difference with using theirs versus ours was hundreds of thousands of dollars that we would have had to pay. We're going to pay something, but we would have had to pay much, much more if we had used the numbers that the plaintiff brought through their appraiser.
And just not to interrupt, as you know, the hundreds of thousands applies to the town. It's millions to the school district.
Right. Millions, okay. Millions. So, now, with that being said, this board, when you have about a 10% chance of winning an appeal, this board thought we had such a strong case that we said, let's spend the money to do that. We got the Olympic team to go out and do what we had to do, and we minimized the loss. Minimized the loss through the litigation and then through the appeal. Now, people are going to be critical of the town board, the town assessors, and everybody else to hold this happening. Well, we're just here trying to fix what has occurred. And this, we did fix it. And we negotiated for 2 years before going into litigation on this. We thought we had it resolved long ago before we spent the money on this. But the plaintiff said, no, it's not good enough for us, and walked off. So, this all being said, I want that clarification because there's some people who are angry at this board thinking we didn't do our job because they didn't understand. And I've got a letter in my mailbox that backs that up. It's lack of understanding. We have done, I think, a yeoman's job and went out and took the gamble to appeal this thing, and we won.
And saved millions of dollars. And by the way, since 1998, this has been the elephant in the room that everyone has ignored. All the other boards just kept rolling on and allowing the certiorari's to continue rather than stepping up to it. And what happens is there's a cumulative effect, and it just gets bigger.
Interest alone, basically.
Yes, and they have just ignored that elephant in the room. And we didn't. We took the bull by the horns and we settled this thing, and we did prevail, and we saved mega millions of dollars.
I just want to say,
But even though we're going to spend a lot of money, don't get me wrong, we've got to spend a lot of money.
But in relation
to where it could have been, it's minuscule.
I just want to make another comment. There were a lot of nights that we were here at 11:30, and I think you know that joke, but sometimes you're outside waiting for us. Because we hash everything out.
Hiding in the bushes.
This board hashes everything out. We had our professionals, Dennis here, and our other attorney, Mr. Murphy. We asked questions, we did what ifs, we did everything.
We met with the appraisers.
But just for the fact of all the money that we have saved, that we don't have to pay out, it goes further than that, because it's going forward also.
Right.
Because if they use our numbers, those are dollars of less reduction they would have had. So It keeps going on. It doesn't stop just at this, where we're at today, what they appealed. It goes on forward with a true assessment, not their assessment.
Right. Dennis, do you have anything to say?
No, again, I'm sure you folks are probably tired of talking about this stuff. We've been dealing with it a long time.
I want you to put the frosting on the cake.
Not anymore.
Yeah, well, the frosting on the cake is, again, I've been involved in these things for many years, and again, the board should be given a lot of credit for wanting even to take this on, because as you know, the trial itself was stressful, very expensive, and then to get an adverse decision from the local Supreme Court justice, which obviously the board concluded was in error, and then to spend literally lots of money to go to the appellate division in Brooklyn, only to be found out that the petitioner wanted to attempt to take it to the Court of Appeals, which is the highest court of the state of New York, which that was the decision you received today. And as an aside, Joel just asked me now if anyone else had contributed or offered to contribute to our cost and expense in doing this, because anybody who's been involved in litigation is aware that it is terribly expensive, because there's never usually one attorney. There's a bank of them, there's support people, there's experts, there's exhibits to prepare, there's reproduction costs, filing fees. And unfortunately, although we did appeal and request some assistance, we have, at one time we were promised some assistance by the school district, but we have not received any contribution or compensation or offer to share in the cost. Again, we're substantial. And your duty, if you will, because you are the assessing unit, and the effect on the town is, as I indicated earlier, is to save potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. The effect on the school district is to save millions of dollars. The fire district will also benefit, the library will benefit. Didn't affect the village because the property, the subject of litigation.
And by the way, we came up with these budget figures, and we have already paid the bills. So what we're saying is, these bills are not hanging out there and plaguing us. We've already paid all the legal fees in order to do all this in the previous budgets, and have still held the line at the same budget amount as 2000.
And just as a personal note, too,
Go ahead.
No, this won't mean a great deal to the non-board members, but this fella, Dave Murphy, who was the lead attorney on the appellate case to the Court of Appeals, is as qualified and is as competent as anybody, believe me when I say this, that I think this board will ever come in contact with, in terms of a specialty area of the law. And I went to school with him at Georgetown many years ago, and bright guy, as you know. Hard worker, but he's also had a feel for the community. He lives up above Albany, and he genuinely enjoyed working on the case. But as you know, I think, even though the numbers and the costs, again, mount, or have mounted, as Phil indicated they've been paid, he was as honest and as liberal with us as he could possibly be. There were many instances, let me tell you, he didn't charge you for things we were involved in. We did it by taking shortcuts here and there, but the guy, I think you saw him at trial. It's real quality.
Absolutely.
And it's no different than anything else in life. There are many good people out there, but some of them just rise above their own station and or their contemporaries. And this guy is good.
Yep.
He's as good as they come.
And he was great.
Absolutely.
The other thing is the appraiser, is that what you call an appraiser?
Correct.
That we used. I'm telling you, he was dynamite.
Yeah, he is occasionally he is the foremost expert in the entire nation on the evaluation of landfills.
And that's why we prevailed in the appeals court.
And unfortunately, and I think people do appreciate this, I know the board does, is that it costs. You know the old saying, you get what you pay for. And we really had good people. Now the petitioner did also. They used Deloitte and Touche. Their appraisal was out of Atlanta. He's authored any number of books, etc. But we've always felt, as I know the board agreed, that he made a cardinal error in his approach and the methodology in which he assessed or appraised the Turry landfill. But let me tell you, we had some top shelf people, and again, it's always, I'm sure, if you've been ever fortunate enough to go to college or secondary, even graduate school in your own lives, you meet people along the way who author these things, who wrote the book, or they're teaching from their text. That's the guys we had on our team. And you pay, but let me tell you, it's like anything else in life. If you're gonna engage in the fight, you better come with the right ammunition.
We did not borrow the money, we did not bond it, we included it in our budget, and we paid it. And we're still holding the line on the budget. We paid it as pay as you go. So it's not something that's hanging over where we're gonna have to borrow a bunch.
And to give you an idea,
We did it.
I mean, I'm waxing wistfully about this thing now, but I think the board knows too. Even on some of these appeals we were getting ready. Remember, our appraiser out in Philadelphia, they put together our appraisal in a matter of weeks, which normally they want 6 to 8 months to do at their leisure.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say, it's easy to say now in hindsight, but let me tell you, they did some yeoman-like work, and top shelf.
Good. Thank you, Bill.
Well, thank you very much for that
And one
input.
thing I have to clarify, I agree with all the comments were said here, Bill, just by one statement, Bill. Back in 1998, when this issue came to the town board, and my colleagues voted to push it off to what we face today, I voted against that. I voted that we put it back in 1998.
I'm not
The
surprised.
Crowley Quiet Agreement was not, just for public record.
I'm not surprised.
Oh, no, I'm saying.
But on Friday then, Friday now.
Good for you.
I lost that vote though, 4-1.
I would have mentioned that, Kenny.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So from this point on now, what we have to do is we have to figure out the amounts.
Right. What's occurring now is,
Figured out by who?
the case has been reassigned back to the Supreme Court level. Justice Barlett has it, and we were supposed to be in court, we were in court some days ago. The next court date is December 14, and what we've been charged to do is all of us to make our analysis, the county, the petitioner, and ourselves, and come up with the Excel programs, flow charts, et cetera, which will establish what the true taxes due and owing are during that 10-year period for upwards of 20 parcels a year, or basically 200 parcels, across the taxing years, school, state, county, town, et cetera, and determine what is owed the various parties, including the county. Because I know the board's aware of this. Turry, in many instances, never paid the taxes.
Right.
As such, the county has advanced those monies to the various taxing jurisdictions, and now must be rendered whole, refunded. There's penalties and interest involved, et cetera. And unfortunately, it's a complex arithmetic calculation with a lot of mutations and variations, because again, you're dealing with 20 parcels a year over 10 years, potentially. And that's what we're just crunching numbers now, trying to come up with a grid which is acceptable by all parties.
And some are sold too.
Oh yeah, some have been sold off over time. Some of them are still remaining, and it's a major task. Well, I think you remember we had, my goodness, over 5,000 pages of exhibits established on our side, establishing some of these numbers we're talking about. And I'm sure I know they're on file. Either I know I have a set. I assume there's a set here also of ring binders, which there must be 50 of them, which each contain upwards of 500 pages. A lot of voluminous data, and that's what we're crunching through now.
Good. You, me, and the county?
Yes. Basically, as the supervisor knows, I instructed Murphy not to, unless we needed, not to participate. Mark Sharf, on behalf of the school district, because they're impacted, as you folks know, 70 cents on the dollar, is setting up their own calculations. I'm trying to assist the county, who is challenged in terms of trying to put this together. Because we lived it, they just sent money out year after year. So they're from 3 different angles. We should be coming up with the same data, same conclusions.
Good. Dennis, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, the next item is a review the bid results for the sanitary manhole rehab of the RFP that we processed and select a vendor to complete the work. Dennis, why don't you lead us through? Well, first of all, guys, you can see you have a letter today from Riddick Associates, professional engineer Sean Hoffman, And the conclusion, on the second page, in summary, it says, in conclusion, we believe you have received competent proposals. The low bidder, TAM Enterprise, has the capability to perform the work, and if Attorney Kaplicki advises that the bid documents are legally sufficient and funds available, an award may be made to the low bidder. So based on that, I've asked Dennis to put together this
basically a package of information which you have, including the written cover letter. A motion would be in order if the board so deems it appropriate.
Oh, sorry, that's right, we don't have,
Right.
this one's
There's
not...
no resolution. This is simply a simple motion to award or the bid, if you will, to TAM Enterprises, Inc. in the amount of $14,450. I have reviewed all the bid documents in regards to the TAM proposal, and they are in order, legally sufficient, and it is available at this time for a motion for the board to award the bid accordingly.
Would someone like to make a motion in that regard?
Ken, you want to do it? Second.
Any discussion?
I have one quick question which I asked you. Riddick Associates, I don't want to be embarrassed like they did in the village. In your proposal, all the prevailing wages, we met all of the legal requirements for the state of New York. I remember the village we moved.
Correct.
From dirt at a very low price, and then it turned out
Right.
there was an issue. I don't.
Yeah, I'm assured by Sean Hoffman of Riddick Associates that all of those issues were addressed.
Okay, great question.
Well, the other thing too is, which I guess we'll never have a complete answer, is we got 81,046 and then 14,450.
Yeah, just to make a little rhetorical comment. Yeah, I expressed the same thing to the supervisor. I was concerned about the legitimacy of the bid, but I suspect that TAM, which is local, which does a great deal of work with the town and the village, would like to maintain its stature, if you want to call it that, in terms of contractual activity with the municipalities in the community. And by definition, I think you see that he gave us a very favorable price, and it's to the benefit of everyone.
And they have worked for us on
Numerous occasions.
including putting in the standby.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, no.
Not to all of us, so I mean,
Well-
they're very, in my mind, they're a very reputable firm.
Absolutely.
They're a reputable firm to show at Alfred, so
Yeah.
I think we kind of lucked out.
Yeah, I think it's like a lot of things. It behooves the board, obviously, to appreciate people in the community. I know you do. But a lot of times, the contractors don't look at the municipality just as another trough to feed from, okay? They give back, too. And I think in this instance, I think Mr. Les Panara is the principal of TAM Enterprises, Inc. And there's no question, because my immediate response, just like I think you pointed out, George, was, my goodness, there's got to be an error here.
But Mr. Hoffman talked to Mr. Les Panara and went through it all to ensure that if this was a legitimate matter, that he understood everything. He said, yes, I did. So the only thing I can say is that Mr. Les Panara knows what he's doing. Now, he came in when we put in the storage tank out in Scotchtown, all the reworking the pumps and things. He came in at about 20% of what all the other bidders
Same
did. Well,
scenario.
so I'm very confident he can do this.
Yeah, same scenario, did a great job.
Wasn't TAM, remember the time we went out to Arcadia, we saw a sample how they will do this work? Didn't TAM do it?
No.
I thought there was one that was done at one time.
We did, we used
Oh, this is
somebody
a
else.
different process.
And that was a different,
Okay.
no, those people were, that was kind of it didn't work.
Water seal.
And it was water seal, put plastic on the inside, it didn't work. No, this is where you're gonna rework.
Oh, okay, this is a different process, okay. I just...
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Howard, are you going to start this immediately, or as soon as Robert can get into his schedule, I presume?
Well, I'm gonna call him in the morning and say it's been accepted, let's get on with it before cold weather. Okay, Dennis, the next one is the tertiary with KRG.
Yeah, KRG Realty Company. This is a correction resolution. If you may remember, in October, we adopted a resolution whereby, based upon our recommendations, being my office and the assessor's office, we resolved or settled this particular tax certiorari for 4 tax years, 2009 to 2012. The error occurred because all the costs of preparing those documents, settlement, stipulations, orders, etc., are done by the petitioner. And when they submitted them to us, they were correct, but they used fair market value the proper procedure with the courts, et cetera, is to use the assessment valuations. So what you approved previously was a resolution incorporating those numbers of full market value, where they don't, it's not consistent with the stipulation and order, which requires assessment value. So what you have before you tonight is the corresponding assessment values in subdivisions 1, 2, 3, and 4 you see there for particular years. And it's required that we adopt this resolution settling that item of tax cert litigation as set forth.
Someone like to make a motion regarding this resolution?
No.
The basic settlement didn't change.
Right, no, the numbers,
Methodology.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, again, you know, it's always confusing to people, because as you know, we have equalization rates, so the assessment is not the true value of the house. Yet many times people, and lawyers included, and accountants, convert that to the fair market value, much like Doug was talking earlier about a $300,000 house, in terms of budgetary.
Okay, go ahead.
Would someone like to make a motion regarding this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Cantorino?
Aye.
Councilman Lyons?
Aye.
Councilman Newell?
Aye.
Councilman Capella?
Aye.
Supervisor Bloomfield?
Aye. Motion carries, resolution passes. Okay, the next one under new business, I would like just to kind of recap results of Hurricane Sandy. And before I get into the nitty-gritty detail of it, I want to share with the people of the town of Goshen that Broderick Knoll and Mark Warren, through their looking into the future, saved us a lot of havoc. A week and a half before the storm arrived, Mr. Knoll called me and said, you know, Mr. Bloomfield, I'd like to rent 2 generators and hook them up to the sewage lift station pumps, just in case we lose power to those pumps. And I said, it sounds like a good idea. He also got a couple of other generators as backup for water. And so I want to go through what happened. Okay. But we did not lose a beat. Not a beat. Everything operated through the entire process. And when I went on conference calls with the Emergency Operating Center in the county, the first day, their municipality said, our water is down, our sewer pumps are not running, we're out of power. One community, the police department was down, the town hall was down, and the fire department was down.
Downtown sewer plant was down.
There were lots of them. Lots of them.
That's one of the biggest ones.
Sure.
Right.
Oh, but we continued to run. We didn't lose a beat. Now, I want to talk about what he did. He hooked up, he got these pumps a week and a half in advance. And he disconnected Orange and Rockland power from the sewage pumps. Just disconnected it and hooked these generators in the day before the thing came, Sandy came. Sure enough, Arcadia Hills had hit a tree or whatever and knocked down the wires that would have gone to those pumps. So they just ran through it. There was no spillage, there was nothing. It just continued to run. Now, Hamiltonian Park did not have a hit on sewer. So as soon as the storm went off, we took that pump and disconnected it and put it back in Orange and Rockland. Wonderful advanced thinking. Now, here's what we found. We had 7 roads closed for several days in the town of Goshen. Cheechunk, Upper Magic Circle, Celery Avenue, Knoll Road, Ventry Road, Moonlight Trail, and Lower Reservoir Road. Now, these roads had wires down due to limbs and trees, and they were closed because Orange and Rockland couldn't come out and turn the power off so that we could get in there and take the trees out. Well, they did as time went by. But that was, we were on it the first night, had barricades up, did all we needed to do. The Department of Public Works and the Police Department facilities lost their power. And we have a built-in generator out there, and it ran for several days till power was reestablished to the neighborhood. 2 Hamiltonian Park well facilities were damaged by falling trees. three trees. And in one of them, they ripped the connections right off the building. Just ripped it off, okay? But we had the backup generators, and wells number 1, 4, and 5A operated on generator power. And in Arcadia Hills, where the sewer pump station was operating on generator power in advance, we did that for several days until power was reestablished. Scotchtown Water District facility went flat. I mean, there were trees down on the Scotchtown Avenue. It took all the power out for several days. We had the generator. We just hooked it in, and it ran fine. Ran out of gas once. It ran fine. We freed up 2 of these generators that we had the foresight to get, and we got them through TAM. TAM rented them from someplace. But 2 of these rented generators we were able to free up within a couple of days. And we made them available to the county emergency operating center, and they were scarfed up in a moment by other municipalities who still did not have generators. Okay. And as of last night, we were still working with Orange and Rockland and trying to get some subdivisions and homes back online. And I got calls I made calls yesterday and beat up the appropriate people. And we got attention on 3 very critical areas. The power came up because I came in this morning, got calls from people saying, "Oh boy, I don't know what you said, who you talked to, but we got power." And so we're doing very well. But the town of Goshen in general, we lost a lot of, like Stonehenge and many others, okay? Ridge Road, Cheap Junk Road, lots of places. We lost power. But we didn't lose nearly as much power as the other communities in Orange County. It was a big deal. Like Tuxedo, I think, they were 100%, I think, out of power. And they were only at 50% power yesterday morning, 10 o'clock, I think. Something that we might check on, but they were putting a lot of heat on. But, so anyway, it worked out well, and I thank the county. I thank the county executive. He got right into this business on gasoline with the state of New York before it became a bigger issue than it really was. And he was on the phone to the governor and everybody else, trying to make sure that we had gasoline for people in the community who needed it. So that was a good thing that Mr. Diana did. So, but his whole organization did real well, and right now there are no more conference calls with them. But we had 3 calls a day starting on Saturday a week ago. Okay.
Can I say something?
Sure.
If I may. Something I say something, spokesperson for Doug Bloomfield, but you know, sometimes we sit here amongst ourselves and say, why do we do this job? And I think this disaster is one of the main reasons why we do it. Mr. Bloomfield was on the phone with the county probably every 3 hours. I remember speaking last night at 11 o'clock at night. He always kept in contact with every member that was here. So, Doug, I know you thanked everybody else. I want to thank you on behalf of the residents of Goshen.
Good.
Because he sat in the back guys, but without his contacts and without knowing what was going on in other towns and villages, it would have been a lot worse. So thank you, Doug.
Good.
And just so you know, all the conference calls weren't during the day. Some of them were in the evening that Doug did at his home, or he came back into the office, because I know that. So on the weekends. And weekends. Weekends, too.
Hey, of course, we had 11 o'clock at night.
Well, you know, it's
The lights
interesting.
came on, Doug.
I was on the phone at home. I was using my wife's cell phone since I don't have one. She's one of the smartphones. So smart that anything doesn't work. And so I'm in the middle of a conference call.
The power on.
I was on the smartphone talking to the county on some real hot issues, you know, in the middle of the storm. And all of a sudden, it dropped the call. So Barbara's sitting across the table, honey, that's the damn it, you know, so she dialed it again, well, it got me back on, and I went, and I finished the call. And I had promised Ken that I was going to call him and update him no matter what time of day it was. It was like 10, 11 o'clock. So I called Ken on this smartphone. And I'm talking to myself because it dropped the call again. And I said, hello, Ken? Ken? It dropped the call. So I said, Barbara.
Well, it was a smartphone.
It was.
No wonder.
So I gave it back, she got me back on. And again, it dropped it.
And I told her, you don't get that damn phone, throw it in the backyard, throw it. I was really rude, and she was very patient with me. Smiled at me like I was an imbecile. So, anyway, Ken called back and left a message, just, don't bother calling. I don't know what the hell's going on, but your smartphone is not working. Just go to bed and relax, so. But, there were a lot of people, by the way, the highway department, police department, they all did their thing, and, we just did very well in the community. Really, really well. But thank you, Ken, for those comments. This next one is, it's a resolution to expend additional monies pursuant of previously approved requests for the proposals for the asbestos cleanup of the Legion School property. I'm going to ask Dennis to go through the resolution and then George to explain it to us.
As the board's aware, and you have a resolution before you, previously the town had authorized Quality Environmental Solutions and Technologies, Inc., Quest, to conduct certain testing, if you will, of asbestos issues at the Salesian property. The original report was done back in 2005, and now to bring it current in this particular year, 2012, additional protocols and testing is required. And they estimate that there will be approximately 20 new testing samples taken at a total cost of $2,430, one half of which is the responsibility of the village. So this resolution so notes that and affirmatively indicates that the town is willing to proceed with that additional testing, amending the original request for proposals and submission, and so as to update the 2005 report.
Thank you, Dennis. George?
Sure, you want me to make the motion?
We can do that, sure.
I'll make the motion until he's ready.
Okay.
Okay, then I'll give my explanation.
Great.
I got low batteries now, but it seems like it's working all right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
So what transpired, and just give everybody a little bit of background here, is we got a quote in from the RFP to demo the building along with the asbestos abatement for $386,000. However, as it turns out, if we would have gone into that contract, the asbestos abatement would have wound up costing us more. We estimated probably would have been about $500,000 to do the asbestos abatement plus demo the building. So needless to say, town, village, everybody said, we're not doing that. So we go on now to what else can we do and try and be a little bit more cost effective here. Got the Quest report, 2005, and wanted, I guess, hopefully just to use that particular lab report. However, that can't be done because now you're dealing with 2012 specifications. As Dennis said, 20 more additional laboratory samples have to be done, or plus or minus, to the tune of $2,430. So out of pocket for the town, we're talking about $1,215, right? So that's essentially what the sum and substance of this is to get this report in the fashion now so that we'll know what asbestos has to be taken out. From that particular point, we'll have either the Quest people and or Sean Hoffman develop an RFP just for the asbestos abatement. Once the asbestos is out of the building, then we hope to be able to have some latitudes of different types of things that we can do to demo the building, possibly by hiring some other contractor, having some force account work, take some of the stuff away, do it in the most cost-effective way. So that's the overall game plan.
Good, thank you, George. And also that we were told that if that building were to collapse on itself right now, the asbestos in it, this is all academic, we would have to remove the entire building as though it was asbestos completely contaminated throughout the building. And that would be very, very costly. So we need to get the asbestos out, and then we can do it as we see fit over a period of time or whatever, depending on availability of dollars. So with that, is there any other discussion?
Yeah, it says phase 1 on here, George, on page 7. It talks about $2,430, but then it says
optional services. We're not going for the optional services, I assume. No, there was great talk about the fact, and I don't even know why they put that in there.
Yeah.
But there was, for lead and PCBs, that was if you were going to refurbish the building.
Okay.
So since we're knocking it down, you just have to worry about the asbestos.
Okay.
Good question, Lou. Okay,
Should they be to this, George? I know I said this
Oh,
afternoon, you had
Yeah, no, I
reached out to
hadn't,
them.
I hadn't spoken to Kyle when I spoke to you, but I did finally get in touch with Kyle. I spoke with Kyle. Kyle told me that he didn't see a problem with it as far as he was concerned. He was gonna try and pull some of his members and get back to me. He didn't get back to me, but they would not be able to do a resolution for this for 2 weeks. Because their next meeting is 2 weeks.
We know what we're doing.
But, yeah, but he said he didn't think it was a problem.
Okay, as long as he knows what we're doing, that's all.
Right.
okay, would, Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Cantorino?
Aye.
Councilman Lyons?
Aye.
Councilman Newbold?
Aye.
Councilman Capella?
Aye.
Supervisor Bloomfield?
Aye, motion carries, resolution carries. George, thank you for all your work on that. Here again, George is the one who, coordinator or liaison between us and Joint Rec is kind of taking ownership in this. The next one is the tax levy. We had done some property maintenance, cleaning up the yard and so forth of the property, and the town paid for this, and we've got to put this on the levy against the property. So Dennis, could you explain this for us?
Yeah, this is the property in Arcadia Hills, Section 25, Block 3, Lot 14, which is an annual issue. For whatever reason, the property owner disregards the notices of violation and doesn't maintain the property. The town is required to go in each year and to clean it up pursuant to Chapter 75 of our code, which is the property maintenance section. This year, as in the past, we followed the normal legal procedures, notification, et cetera, with no response or cooperation from the property owners. And the total cost from the landscaping company to remove the debris, cut the brush, et cetera, was $1,513.75, and added to that are the legal costs, minimal, in connection with this particular matter, in an amount of $262.50. So that the total charge back to the property, which will go on the tax levy in January, is $1,776.25. And this resolution so authorizes that.
Good.
Would someone like to make a motion regarding this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I have one issue
Sure.
here that I wanted to discuss, and that is, I don't think there should be tax. Because we did the job, and it says if you are tax exempt, please provide the proper documents. And needless to say, we are tax exempt, so actually the bill should be $1,400. There shouldn't be the $113.75.
Yeah, true, correct, George, as you mentioned it, yeah. So I assume the Bros just in the normal habit of collecting sales tax.
We didn't do the work, did we?
No, we didn't do the work, but the Bros
We had
did.
an they did the work.
Right.
They charged sales tax, he paid it on his tax bill.
Well, it says here,
Yeah, the invoice we have from the Bros includes,
whereas the town of Goshen hired D. Bros Landscaping at the cost of.
Right,
So
no, I understand.
the town hired them, so therefore
Yeah, but
I'm
if they
saying
hired him to
the
do it on a private...
The town shouldn't be paying tax on that.
yeah,
Well, town, most of it,
Well, true, but I'm just saying that amount of money should not be in there. It should be.
yeah, what I'll do, I'll take the issue up with the Bros. By definition, see, the Bros has to pay the tax, if there is a tax due. In working for the municipality, not being on public property, it's possible that there's a tax due because it was on private entity. But because we did authorize it, we did retain them, we may be able to avoid that, which will go back to the taxpayer.
Well, we'll look into it. It's not a
Yeah.
major issue. I know it's not coming out of that.
No, but it's an interesting concept. I didn't think about it at the time, but it's a point well taken.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're going to go to the homeowner and...
Right.
Yeah, we're not trying to pile on the guy, it's just a question of getting it done, yeah.
Okay, a good point. Any other discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk, we have roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cantorino?
Aye.
Councilman Lyons?
Aye.
Councilman Capella?
Aye.
Councilman Newbold?
Right.
Supervisor Bloomfield?
Aye, motion carries.
Yeah, as indicated, I'll check that out. If it's to be reduced or redacted accordingly, we'll do so, and I'll advise you at the next meeting.
Okay, very good. Would someone like to make a motion to authorize the supervisor to pay accounts payable check run November 1st, 2012, amounting to $212,608.01.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, the next item is approve the floor on anything anybody would like to talk about.
Quick
We'll
question.
make it easy, sure, go ahead.
Kenny's meatloaf is waiting, so.
I got 2:45.
I'm never short. Go ahead, please keep the answer short.
Okay.
Is there a protocol in place between the utilities and the municipalities for dealing with situations where you need to turn off power? Do they have a protocol for dealing with those situations in some sort of prioritized way? So that,
Yes.
I mean, you need to deal with that before you can deal with other things.
Yes. Well, the first day, no, it's yes, but the first day that we had the conference call, they asked what roads were out and what is our priority for turning the power off and verify, so we get crews there. We did that, it was done.
So they rely on you to prioritize it.
Yes. And we took the biggest, most used roads first.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, that's it?
Wow.
Okay.
Local weights.
Would someone like to make a motion that we go in executive, well, we adjourn the meeting with the intent not to return, to go in executive session, to talk about the tax surcharge status update, a contract with PERMA for workman's compensation insurance, and potential litigation in the police department.
So moved. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Okay. Folks, thank you very much for coming in. Another day, another dollar.
When do we get there?
Hey, my wife wants to know.
What a meeting! Can you believe that call to order? Like no other meeting in Goshen town, council history. Oh, municipal affairs enthusiasts, this may never be matched again in municipal affairs.